out your books and turn to page 51. Today's lesson is the use of have to and has to. Who can tell me the difference and the usage? Mr. De Guzman? Nothing? So what is this? Nobody read their assignments at home? None of you can even answer me? Why are you late, Mr. Tolentino?
Ano po kasi ma'am, bumili po ako ng ballpen.
Let me remind you, this is English class.
I bought a pen, ma'am.
Sit down and bring out your book.
Yes, ma'am, sorry po.
Quiet!
Yan si Ma'am Evangelista. Stricto, lagi nakasimangot, nakakatakot. Para siyang pinaglihis sa samahan ng loob.
Yes, Mr. Tolentino? Late again, Mr. Tolentino? Remove your earrings!
Parang kada araw na lang may issue si Ma'am.
Where is your book? How will you read the lesson?
Pero kahit ganun siya, siya pa rin ang favorite teacher ko.
I'm really worried about your grades and your habitual tardiness.
I'm sorry po, Ma'am. Hindi na po mauulit.
May problema ba sa bahay?
Wala naman po.
Nandito lang ako pag kailangan mo ng kausap. Ako ang nanay mo sa school.
Dahil kay Ma'am, natuto akong mag-English. Dahil kay Ma'am, nahilig ako magbasa. Yes! Hindi naman nakapasa ako! Pasa ako! Dahil kay Ma'am, natuto ako.
Oh, you're early. Okay, please take note of the scope of your periodical exam. Number 1, compound nouns. Number 2, transitive verbs. Number 3,
Dahil kay Ma'am.
Mr. Tolentino.
Ganito ako ngayon. Ma'am,
Is he going to be my teacher?
Yes, go to your teacher.
Hi, teacher.
ang cute mo naman. What's your name?
Ace po.
Ikaw nang bahala sa apo ko, ha?
Sige po.
Good day, Kavibao! Welcome to our Learn at Home Facebook Live session. For the discussion today, the topic will be on Make or Break, the irony of body's immunity. Before we begin, take note of the following reminders. Make sure you're registered to the webinar to have your e-certificate of participation. Visit certificate.vibalgroup.com to generate your proof of attendance. Share the video using hashtag LearnAs1PH as our official hashtag to our Vibal webinars. Experience learning, Kavibal? And now, to proceed with our webinar this evening, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished speaker today. Miss Lorraine Joyce Del Rosario is a former teacher at the University of Santo Tomas Senior High School and instructor at the University of Santo Tomas. She has taught fields of science and practical research. With a background in journalism and communication in high school, she has also been appointed as the moderator of La Stampa, the official publication of the UST Senior High School, and as an e-learning specialist and educational technology coordinator. She was a member of the UST SHS Executive Committee and many other work and academic-related societies and organizations in the biological field. Apart from graduating as valedictorian in the special program in journalism in high school, Ms. Del Rosario earned a BS Biology degree from the University of the Philippines, Baguio in 2017, supported by a scholarship. Her undergraduate thesis with her partner and advisor was awarded as one of the 2 best paper presentations in the 3rd Philippine Solid and Hazardous Waste Management Conference. She is currently pursuing her Master of Science degree in Biology at UP Diliman, granted with DOST AST HRDP. Her current field of interest is in genetics, particularly in the study of DNA in molecular phylogenetics. Aside from being an educator and a graduate student, Ms. Del Rosario spends her time writing, tutoring English online, accepting speaking and hosting engagements, and traveling as a hobby prior to the pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Ms. Lorraine Joyce Del Rosario.
Thank you very much, Teacher G, for that very heartwarming introduction. Let me just share my slide. Okay. All right. In this world where we live in, every second of every day is a constant battle against invincible and invisible enemies, which we cannot see with our naked eyes. These are threats to our health and wellness. The pressure that natural selection exerts is inexhaustible and unending. Emerging infectious diseases have as much potential to shape future human history as the epidemics and pandemics of the past. Every second of every day, even before the pandemic, an army of hostile microbes swarms on our skin and invades our inner passages. Yet, for a fact, we still remain healthy most of the time. The body seems to have developed a single-minded approach towards such foes, wherein if you're not with us, then you're against us. So managing this threat depends on understanding how to maximize the potential of our sophisticated immune system in the service of human health. And now that we're talking about immunity, if not that natural immunity that we have, here's the latest talk of the town, one which is claimed to be something that will put an end to this pandemic. Vaccines, coronavirus vaccines. Remember, before the clock was ticking to find a vaccine for the coronavirus that was ravaging the world. and researchers are racing against time, but there's only so much they can do to speed things up. And 7 billion people from all walks of life around the world are all yearning, waiting to find the light at the end of the tunnel of this pandemic. Well, depending on a plausible solution. Though to take that solution entails a personal consent, I believe it is important to raise awareness and gather knowledge for us to be able to justify our choices. But now that the vaccines are already here, are we all really ready? So the immune system is reliable and it pledges to keep its role, especially amidst this pandemic. However, what if, as we develop our immune response, the system that serves to protect us and make us would also be responsible of breaking us? So again, a pleasant evening to each and everyone. Once again, I'm grateful to be speaking before you about a topic which is very timely and crucial today. I've always wanted to raise awareness on this topic. After all, who will fight for us when no one else would do, right? So we have our fighters, but at times certain events cause these fighters to be reprogrammed, thus tends to attack our body back and bring about our downfall. So ladies and gentlemen, this is our topic on make or break, the irony of body's immunity. Here is the outline of the presentation. Well, the objective of our presentation is to discuss an overview of the immune system regarding its protection of the human body, introduce mechanisms to fight the virus, identify the challenges that the system faces, and presents information on the most recent COVID-19 treatments and experimental data. Ironically, this presentation will also show how the body can be put in a scenario wherein it could fight itself back. So without further ado, let us discuss our first topic, which is on the background of our body defense and immune response. So all organisms are connected in a complex web of relationships. Although many of these are benign, not all are, and everything alive devotes significant resources to identifying and neutralizing threats from other species. From bacteria through to primates like us, the presence of some kind of effective immune system has gone hand in hand with evolutionary process. For a young elementary student, maybe you can explain that the immune system protects us against viruses and diseases, and that it produces antibodies to kill these pathogens or disease-causing microorganisms. And as a part of the background of our topic, it might also be helpful for us to learn about some definition of terms which are given by the World Health Organization. So when they say immune system, this refers to the different parts, the cells, tissues, molecules that mediate the resistance. And when we say immunology, that's the actual study of structure and function of the immune system. Immunity is the resistance of a host, like us, to pathogens or microorganisms and their toxic effects. And when you say immune response, that's the collective and coordinated response to the introduction of foreign substance in an individual mediated by the cells and molecules of the immune system. And perhaps we are all aware that the immune system has these roles to defend us against microbes, defend against the growth of tumor cells or cancer cells as it kills the growth of these, and for homeostasis or equilibrium inside our body by disrupting abnormal or dead cells. Basically, what happens is when harmful things enter the body, they will be recognized as foreign substance or foreign matters, and antibodies will mark them as bad. And immune cells attach these harmful things in order to protect our healthy cells. Basically, how lucky are we, right, to have some sort of like a swarm of soldiers or fighters fighting for our body. This picture emerges of a child born with an immature, innate, adaptive immune system. which matures and acquires memory as he grows. However, it then declines, or it goes into decline in old age. So these changes are considered alongside the risk of different types of infection, autoimmune disease, and malignancy. Hence, the reason why old people are considered the least vulnerable ones, because as we grow older, our immune system also gradually declines. Second in our topic, we discussed the two types of immunity. We have the innate and the acquired immunity. So when we say innate immunity, this is the first line of defense or first immunological mechanism against invading pathogens. So it has a double role to provide initial control of the infection and initiate an adaptive rapid immune response, initiated within minutes or hours after the aggression, although it has no immunologic memory. So the innate immune system consists of physical barriers like epithelial layers in our tissues, mucus, soluble factors such as complement system, soluble mediators, cytokines, and cells like neutrophils, macrophages, and dendritic cells. On the other hand, we have the adaptive immunity. So a while ago, innate is the first line of immune response. Acquired or adaptive is the second line of response. It has the capacity to generate a wide range of specific antigen receptors through somatic mechanisms of gene rearrangement. So these mechanisms create a random repertoire of receptors that are clonally distributed in our T and B lymphocytes, which are types of white blood cells. This gives it the advantage of having a wide repertoire of specific antigen receptors, which can be recognized without these having to be encoded in the host genome, therefore allowing the recognition of almost any antigenic structure. So as compared to the innate, it has a capacity for memory, which enables the host to mount a more rapid and efficient immune response upon subsequent exposure to the antigen. So this is another illustration showing the comparison. So innate immunity having the first line of the barriers or defenses, while adaptive immunity having the memory. Next, let's discuss immune response. There are also two types. Humeral, which relies on the actions of antibodies circulating through the body, but antibodies alone are not enough against pathogens. So in this instance, we also have the cell-mediated immune response to destroy infected body cells. So firstly, we have the humoral immune response, which depend on antibodies. So I'm sure we are already familiar with antibodies. So an immunocompetent but as yet immature B lymphocyte, again, which is a type of a white blood cell, is stimulated to complete its development when antigens binds to its surface receptors. So antigens are the proteins from the virus or the pathogens. So in this process, the lymphocytes or specific types of white blood cells begin to grow and then multiplies rapidly to form an army of cells exactly like itself and bearing the same antigen-specific receptors. So the antibodies created by the body bind to specific antigens on the microbes or the microorganisms. This destroys the microbes via specific mechanism. And finally, some of the B lymphocytes will evolve into the resting state. Antibodies, more formally to be introduced, are referred to as the immunoglobulins. They constitute the gamma globulin part of the blood proteins. And they're soluble proteins secreted by active B cells or their plasma cell offspring in response to the antigen. So antibody versus antigen. Antibody is the one produced by us, humans, and antigens are the proteins from the virus or the pathogens, the disease-causing microorganisms. And these antibodies are capable of binding specifically with that antigen. So despite that there exists a variety of antibodies, they all have a similar basic anatomy, which is like this. And it allows them to be grouped into 5 Ig or immunoglobulin classes, each slightly different in structure and function. So this is related to the humoral immunity. The other one is a cell-mediated immunity. This one, it's a response that does not involve antibodies. Rather, cell-mediated immunity is the activation of the phagocytes, which are antigen-specific cytotoxic T lymphocytes, and the release of various cytokines in response to an antigen. So moving on, this is very timely. Let's discuss vaccines. So as part of the humoral immunity, specifically active humoral immunity, let us discuss about vaccines. And a timely vaccine that we have at current is, of course, the COVAX. But how do vaccines really work? So in the next few slides, we'll just learn the simple mechanism of the vaccines. So after we are exposed to infections, our immune system remembers the threat, in particular, by producing protein antibodies. And they quickly recognize the same invader upon contact, thereby preventing or minimizing illness. So this is why we become immune. And vaccines mimic this process, encouraging the immune system to make antibodies without us having to go through the illness. So different kinds of vaccines arise, right? Some of the leading vaccine candidates are mRNA vaccine, like that of the Pfizer and Moderna. So based on incorporating the genetic blueprint for the key spike protein on the virus surface into a formula that when injected into the human instructs our own cells to make the spike protein. In turn, the body makes antibodies against the spike protein and protects us against the disease or the infection. So the illustration also appears like this. The strategy of mRNA vaccine is actually faster. Well, it's the fastest than faster than most of the traditional vaccines that often involves generating weakened or live attenuated or inactivated forms or making large amounts of the protein subunit to determine whether they can prompt an antibody response. So perhaps you have seen this. This is the types of COVID-19 vaccines. We have a lot of PubMeds, a lot of posters circulating online to inform the public of these COVID-19 vaccines. And I believe it's very important to really raise awareness on this because we already have the vaccines now, and it's important for us to justify our choices. It's still, nevertheless, personal consent, whether to take the vaccine or not. So Moderna and Pfizer use the encapsulated mRNA vaccine, whereas Oxford AstraZeneca uses a viral vector, as well as the Johnson & Johnson and Gamaleya. Well, the Sinovac used the inactivated virus. So in this case, once a potential vaccine is discovered, a number of checkpoints still exists. So we have 4 here. We have the preclinical tests, which involves experiments in the lab and with animals. Scientists must ensure this, that the vaccine candidate is not only effective, but also safe. And then we have clinical trials that can begin a small group of people. And as it advances, it is tested on increasing number of people. Sometimes people are also categorized into an experimental and placebo group to observe effects of the vaccine. And of course, safety and efficacy are closely being monitored. Then it must be approved by regulatory boards such as FDA before large mass production or distribution. So the vaccines could actually save tens of thousands of lives, and it will help rescue the economy. However, there are also many key challenges until we achieve, what the goal to have the herd immunity. So the goal is to have a herd immunity, also known as a population immunity, like in this illustration. So this is the indirect protection from an infectious disease that happens when a population is immune, either through vaccination or immunity developed through previous infection. So if only you can see here, if only a few people are vaccinated, then one person is infected, the disease spreads fast. So infectious agent passes freely from contagious to susceptible. But if lots of people are vaccinated, then the disease can't spread very far. So the whole community stays safe. And the contagion, which is the pathogen, cannot freely pass via immunized to susceptible. So this is the herd immunity. And there is what they compute herd immunity threshold, which refers to the percentage of the population that needs to become immune to an infectious disease so that people without immunity are not likely to interact with an infected person and become infected. So typically herd immunity is achieved when 70% to 90% or 60% to 80%, depends on the diseases of the population, is immune through natural infection or vaccination. However, even if herd immunity is achieved, it might not be uniform across the population. So outbreaks could still occur. All right. And then now let's move on to our next topic. Well, the title of this presentation actually revolves around the irony of our body's immunity, right? So known to serve its function for protection, it is also ironically causing a compromise to our immunity. So the immunity has an exquisite mechanism capable of responding to various pathogens. A normal antiviral immune response requires the activation of the inflammatory pathways of the immune system. However, exaggerated response of the host immune system can also cause severe diseases if remains uncontrolled. So yes, immune response can also fail. So when immune response fail, it prompts hypersensitivity reactions, immunodeficiency, and those kinds of reactions and the like. So hypersensitivity reactions refer to or cause cell damage through excessive immune response to antigens. And let us take note some of the terms here, such as hypersensitivity, which refers to overreaction to infectious agents, allergy, overreaction to environmental substances, anaphylaxis, autoimmunity, or overreaction to self. So when the immunity or the body also attacks itself, that is what we call autoimmune response. According to statistics, women get autoimmune disease at a rate of about 2 to 1 compared to men. So 6.4% of women versus 2.7% of men. And often the disease starts during women's childbearing age. So what are autoimmune diseases? Well, it's a condition in which the immune system mistakenly attacks the body. Actually, researchers don't know what causes autoimmune diseases specifically, but there are many theories pointing out to the overactive immune system attacking the body after an infection or injury. And another proof or evidence of how immune system can break us, can harm us, are cytokines. Cytokines are large groups of proteins, peptides or glycoproteins that are secreted by specific cells of immune system, and they are essential part of the inflammatory process. So as COVID-19 cases fill the hospitals, among the sickest and most likely to die are those whose bodies react in a signature catastrophic way. So immune cells flood and attack the lungs, they should be protecting, blood vessels leak, blood itself clot, blood pressure increases, organs starts to fail. Such cases, doctors and scientists believe that it's due to the immune system becoming or going on overboard. So it harms instead of it helps. So when the cytokines that raise immunity activity become too abundant, the immune system may not be able to stop itself, and immune cells spread beyond infected body parts and start attacking the healthy tissues, gobbling up red and white blood cells and damaging other organs like the liver. So this is what we call the cytokine storm. When the cytokines, which are normal or essential parts of the immune system, start to attack the healthy cells. And also macrophages also have an issue with this. So body has special cells, macrophages, which consume dying cells to prevent them from building up in the body. However, macrophages are also able to eat any cell that is infected by a bacterium or virus, so even our healthy cells. So sometimes the macrophages are given the wrong signals and they attack healthy cells. So when this happens, the body develops an allergic reaction or inflammation that can lead to something called autoimmunity. So sometimes after the danger signal has passed, these cells do not remove the eat me signal. So when this happens, the immune system still thinks that cells are infected and will continue to attack them. So now that we are aware of these autoimmune conditions, the ironies in our body's immunity, let us just briefly look into ways on how we could take care of our immune system. Because there are a lot of autoimmune diseases existing, and often their symptoms are overlapping, therefore making them very hard to diagnose. And lifestyle environment are actually the main reasons. Not genetics, but lifestyle environment are believed to be the main determining factors in the risk of autoimmune disease. However, worry no more, because there are actually ways to reduce the risk of autoimmune diseases. And hopefully, we could follow these ways to prevent the autoimmune conditions, which I have read from several journals and publications. So for example, avoiding toxins from pollutions and heavy metals, right? We can get exposure to these toxins, so hopefully you could avoid them. Eat an anti-inflammatory diet, which includes, like trans fats, omega, fatty acids, sugar, and grains. On the other hand, it also contains plenty of whole food protein sources, fruits and vegetables, healthy fats. So basically, balanced diet. Maintain a healthy weight. So being overweight and obese also can raise your risk of developing autoimmune diseases. Focus on gut health. So published research show that there's a link between your gut microbes and the development of autoimmune disease. So you can improve your gut health by avoiding, too much grains and sugar, or rather eating plenty of dietary fiber instead from fruits and vegetables, and taking prebiotic or probiotic supplements. Also, quit smoking. Smoking doubles your risk of multiple sclerosis and risk for autoimmune diseases. And of course, get enough sleep. Being sleep deprived, sleeping on inconsistent schedule, or getting poor quality sleep all raise our risk of developing autoimmune diseases. So for our summary and conclusion, right? So it is really essential not only to recognize and understand the different important roles of our immunity, our immune response, antibody-based, cytotoxic immune defenses, but it's also important to match the requirements for protection against the pathogen or toxin in question with the development of the protective immune response. So, and as a key takeaway, the pandemic is still within us. Every day we have threats, actually, not just with the coronavirus. Unless we achieve herd immunity, we will continue to also live under the perils of this virus. So as our immunity fights for us, as it makes us, it can also break us. Hence, we must also do our part to boost this weapon and line of defense for overall health and wellness. And of course, it's really important to always be educated, be informed, and be aware of these things. So that's why here in Vival, we recognize the importance of learning and raising awareness about everything during this pandemic. So hopefully we could continue to patronize our Learn at Home program, our Learn at Home kits, because it's really important that we are informed. So that would be all for my presentation tonight. Thank you very much for your participation. And here are my references.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Do you have any last reminders to our viewers for today po?
I just wish everyone to, keep our health, keep our state healthy, and it may seem as a cliche, it may really be a cliche, but health is really our wealth. So yeah, thank you very much, Vibal, again for another opportunity, of giving us a platform tonight to raise awareness on immunity talks. Thank you, Miss Jillian.
There we have it. In behalf of Vibal Group Incorporated, I would like to thank our speaker for today for this again very insightful demo teaching session. It is an honor to have you with us today, ma'am. And to all our Vibal viewers, all thanks to you for your continuous patronage to our daily learning session. Don't forget to register to get your e-certificate of participation. We also encourage you to subscribe and watch on our official Vival Facebook and YouTube channel. Muli, maraming salamat at magandang araw sa ating lahat.